the record run in this category of that 6:2:09. That was a 4:03 to the 8th mile. So J.R. Carr is kind of the guy that everyone's been looking at to be maybe the first person to run a 3:99 in the 8th mile. I would suggest that in a quarter mile, J.R. Carr is the guy that we should be looking at to run that teen. He's got Mike Bell next to him. The man, the myth, the Hill in front of the race car. Mike Bell driving for Roy Hill out of Sophia, North Carolina, the Roy Hill's drag racing school. Ford Mustang.
I'm looking at Roy down there with his hands on his hips after watching the burnout, and I think I could read his lips. I've done taught you better than that. Because that thing came out not your traditional burnout. Really didn't smoke the tires coming out of the water box. And Jerry Haas down there taking care of the wheelie bar and looking over that Roy Hill machine, an absolute living legend. And J.R. Carr. J.R. spent some time with the 500 cubic inch pro stock stuff back in the day. Makes his home up in Washington State, but he really enjoys the mountain motor machines. And he's a guy that has spent a lot of time and money doing some refinement, not necessarily in the horsepower end of things, but Brian, as you were mentioning earlier, with chassis development, because when you're dealing with the kind of torque that these motors make, you can't just drop one of those in an NHRA Pro Stock car and have at it.
Yeah, there's been kind of a moratorium self-imposed on engine development in this class, and it's one of the things that's helped the class survive. You're not showing up with a flavor of the week engine combination. You're not going broke on an engine dyno. You're getting a good combination from whoever you decide to get it from. The chassis side of things, what Carr has done is really, he's the first guy in a long time that sat down with a clean sheet of paper and said, how do we optimize what's happening with this engine? How do we make the best out of it? What kind of refinements and changes, as you mentioned, can we make to build not just a Pro Stock car, but build a specific mountain motor Pro Stock car, and that has given him a distinct advantage.
Mike Bell on the left side, J.R. Carr in the right. Bell chatters the tires. He's out of it. Watch J.R. Carr down to the stripe, diving around a little bit. 6:17, 228 miles an hour. That's the quickest mountain motor Pro Stock car ever. 12:50 for Mike Bell, but he was out of that one at the hit. J.R. Carr, 6:17, a milestone, and even the other teams down there congratulating him.
Frank Gugliotta down there pointing, yelling, and waving, getting high fives from the 500 cubic inch Pro Stock crowd that's all watching this session. The Flying Meatball tuning to the quickest run in the history of the category and destroying a record that's sat for 10 years.